I've just literally been asked a little while ago to share a few words. So what comes to my heart is to carry on from this aspect of trust. And I had to, in my journey, hold on to something that I trusted. And I think of all the things I've questioned, and religion and spirituality, and what really made sense to me was the Hadith Qudsi, in which Allah says, I was a hidden treasure, unknown, and I loved that this treasure be known. Therefore I created. So the purpose of our creation, the purpose of our journey, is to discover that treasure that's indescribable in words, that has to be tasted and experienced. And along this journey of trust, I can't explain whether it was because of the love of my parents, because of Allah's grace, all combined, but I did have a trust in the Quran. Even though I never understood it, or I didn't know Arabic, but I had a trust in the authenticity of the Quran and the prophetic wisdoms and stories that we've had. So from these sources, the story of creation was Allah created the arwah, the spirits, and He addressed the collective arwah, and He said, Alastu bi Rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And we all answered, yes, you are our Lord. Then along that process of creation, whatever, how many billions of years, I don't know. But then when Allah created His finest, Adam, and He breathed into Adam His ruh, His spirit, He commanded the angels to prostrate to Adam. Now, for any of you who know a little bit of Sharia, the greatest sin in Sharia is shirk, worship of anything other than Allah. So if Allah's commanding the angels to prostrate to Adam, He is not asking them to worship Adam. And He is certainly not asking them to prostrate to the body of Adam. They are prostrating to Allah's ruh in Adam. And of course Iblis refused. Iblis said, no, Iblis basically said, I'm your finest. No one loves you as much as I love you. How can anybody be as good as me? So he refused. In this journey of life, it is for us to remember and realize what is our essence, that we are ruh. And Iblis is constantly trying to make us forget that. Iblis is trying to make us say, oh, you are this sheikh, you are this great student, or this great businessman, or great father, great mother or great doctor, whatever. All of these are roles that we have. But that's not who we are. And we forget who we are. Who we are is the ruh, encapsulated in this body. Given this body for a short while. And I'd like to just share with you a metaphor, for example, of the acorn. If you've actually seen an acorn, it's quite a formidable seed. It's quite a solid, tough structure. Every acorn has the potential to be a mighty oak. Of course, the vast majority of acorns will not become an oak, especially if they get taken up by a squirrel or something. But just imagine that acorn that's planted in the soil, in fertile soil. If it is given the right water, sunlight, nutrients, it is quite amazing how from that really solid, hard shell breaks out this tiny little flimsy leaf. And it comes out into the earth from the soil. This little leaf has broken out from such a solid shell. Can you imagine the fight it's had to go through to smash through that shell? And once it's smashed through that shell and it comes out very flimsy, it can, bit of too much wind, storm or something, it's gone. But if it's given the right nurture and nature, it's got its nature, but if it's given the right nurture, it can then grow into a mighty oak. The ego that insan is given is the necessary fight to break from that shell. If we were not given an ego, we would never have broken out of that shell. We would never, so every child has an ego. And there is, even every prophet had an ego. Someone asked me once, does Sheikh Fadullah have an ego? I think I haven't seen anybody with a bigger ego than Sheikh Fadullah. But he has such a massive ego, but he has even a more massive ability to contain it instantly. To recognize it, as soon as it raises its head, to recognize it and put it down. Because once you've broken out of that shell, then you need to contain. And you need protection. Now you need to overcome the ego. So don't curse the ego. The ego is a necessary aspect of our growth. But once we have broken out of that shell, then we have to go for wisdom where we curtail the ego. What is modesty? We've had enough. No, I've had enough. Thank you. You have some. These are all parts of wisdom, aspects of our journey of growth. But ultimately, we have to remember we're not who we end up thinking we were. We are not this body. We are not that personality that has to worry about this reputation or that reputation and this. We're responsible and accountable for our actions. of course. But essentially we are ruh. And the ruh is divine. It is this divinity caught within this humanity. And once we realize that truly, then we are happy to have this body and we are happy to let it go. It's no big deal. In fact, it's going to be a lot more fun when we let go. It's going to be a party. Really, but when we go there, the Quran says we're going to say, I remember this. Like the night last night when we were singing and the hearts were singing. So when we're in Jannah, inshallah, we'll remember when we're singing in Jannah, oh yes, we were where land meets sea and we were singing like this. We remember that taste. These are the tastes. So we get the taste of Jannah here and now. We also get distracted. We have fitna, as has been clearly prophesied, is inevitable. Whatever the wisdom of Allah is to have this as part of the design, that's Allah's design. What I know is Prophet said this is going to happen and this is going to happen and it's happening and we've seen it. It's not an opinion, really. What Sheikh Muslim shared with us, we've already seen it. We've already experienced it. We know it. So you can't deny this. You can't deny the existence of these fitnas. And when you witness it, when you witness any injustice, any ignorance, if you don't get upset with that, then you're not human. Something has died in you. If you see an injustice taking place and it doesn't upset you, then something's wrong with you. You're not alive. But you witness the injustice, you express your anger. If you can do something about it, you're obligated to. I mean, if you heard the call to prayer and you're on your way to the mosque for salah, you're on your way to the best of actions. But if on your way you see a young child about to slip into a pond and drown, you have to do ijtihad and you must not go to that prayer, but you have to go and save that child. No two ways about it. But all of these things that occur in life, you deal with, but you don't live in those. You displace. You get upset with something, or you have to deal with something, you do it, but then it's done. That's why we have 5 times prescription daily of salah. Go back, check back, go back into that. And that ruh, that core, is within you. You can access it. But remember that the shaitanic energy that is jealous of the station of mankind, is constantly trying to distract us with noise. So what is the opposite of noise? Silence. And if we can find ways to enhance our practice of silence, and there are many techniques. And the Prophet ﷺ said, all of knowledge is the property of the moment. Wherever you find it, you can take it, polish it, clean it, and own it. So I personally discovered techniques of silence at Vipassana, the Buddhist retreat of Vipassana. I did a 10, 11 day. And I learned there how to do my sajda. I'd actually gone there because this is about 6 years ago. I was at my sheikh's farm and I just got fed up one day. And I prayed Zohar with him and went back to my room, and I thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. I have been 30 years with this man and I still don't know how to disappear in my sajda. That's it. When I go this evening and pray Maghrib with him, I'm not leaving without this. I don't know how this happened, but I just got filled with it. So I go up to pray Maghrib with him. After praying Maghrib, so many of us here who have been with Shaykh Fadlallah know this, he has this ability to answer your questions without you even saying a word. So he says, sit down, Haider. I can't give you what you're asking for because I don't have the base facility to teach it. And I straight away understood. So there wasn't much of a discussion. I understood what he was saying. So I went back to my room and I contacted Shahadab. And I said, can you do some research for me and find out if there's a Hindu or Buddhist retreat in England somewhere that I can go to? So he found this Vipassana center for me. And I went there and I knew why I was going there. I was going there to learn how to disappear in my sajda. And by Allah's grace, I got it. And it was such a gift. And Sheikhna instructed me to do the silent retreat, where I used what I learned from the Vipassana, but did it. Ours was based on the Salah and the Sajda. It requires effort. One of the big problems is the world we live in, the noises that are going on, the distractions, the foods we eat. In the Vipassana, it's 3 days just to detox. Really. I mean, they have this noble silence where you're not to speak to anybody. You're not even to have eye contact with anybody. You have no phone, nothing, right? They give you breakfast at 6:30 in the morning, and then they give you lunch at 11 a.m., and that's the last meal of the day. And it's very wholesome vegetarian food. So you get 3 days just to detox, because all of these animals that you've eaten and all of these noises, and they're so distracting. But after 3 days, when you've detoxed and you start going into this silence, you discover amazing things. For example, you could have had a pain in your elbow for 5 years that doesn't go. And then you do this meditation and silence, and you go and you scan through and you greet every sensation. And you don't like or dislike. They call it equanimity. In Arabic, we call it zuhud. Zuhud is something actually commonly misunderstood by Muslim people. Most Muslim people think a zahid is an ascetic who like lives with very little, does without. But Imam Ali explained that a zahid, an ascetic, is not someone who has no wealth. Is not someone who doesn't own any wealth. A zahid is someone who is not owned by any wealth. Very different. So if he has it or he doesn't have it, it doesn't matter. So even with this pain, it's like you approach it with zuhud. You don't like it, you don't dislike it. And then you also remember the concept of impermanence, that nothing in this world is going to last. Everything except the face of Allah will disappear. So if you have that pain, you say, oh, all right, how long are you here for? How long are you going to be here? Right? And you address it, and then you move on, and then you go. And when you come back scanning, and that pain is not there, it's a major wow moment. You know, it's like, wow, where did that pain go? It's been with me for 5 years. You know, this is now it's gone, right? It's quite incredible. And when you start now, the Vipassana rules were that anybody of any faith can come here, but whilst you're here for the 10 days, you're not supposed to practice any ritual religions of any other kind. So that's very off-putting to Muslims, because you gulp, as a gulp, you think, can I leave my salah for 10 days? But I was so determined that I want to learn how to disappear in my sajda that I said, you know what? Ya Allah, I'll give up my salah for 10 days if I can learn how to do my salah properly. So I go there, but because of my age, they gave me a room to myself. So I'm sitting in this room on my own, and I remembered this hadith, and I'm not good at these hadiths in Arabic, but it said, the hadith was something like, all the arwah, all of the spirits are in harmony, and all of the nafses are in dispute. So I thought, do you know what? If the Ruh of Buddha himself comes and sees me pray in my room, he's not going to be upset because the arwah are in harmony. Right? You know, so I'm going to do my salah in my room. And it was such a gift, because what they were teaching in the meditation hall, so if you all know the Buddha pose, where you're sitting on the floor like this, that's the Buddha pose. That's how Buddha sat under this tree. Absolutely phenomenal. Mind-blowing. How sitting in that pose, he achieved that stillness. I mean, when I would sit in that pose in the meditation hall, my mind would get distracted. I was designing the Sufi Vipassana course, and then I think, stop. Get back to silence, stillness. But when I would do the same thing in my room after my salah in sajda, you know what we have in Islam is the perfected technology. Really, I'm telling you, we have the perfected technology. The sajda pose is far superior to the Buddha pose. I mean, in the Buddha pose, you have got to be such a genius to be not distracted the way Buddha did it. But in sajda pose, let me just say this, it's 10 times easier to be in silence in sajda pose. And a hard wooden floor like this, by the end of that 10 days, I could be in a sajda for a whole hour and not move a limb in that sajda pose. Otherwise, I couldn't do a minute on a hard floor like that. Really. Where's a minute? I mean, I managed to do an hour, just complete still on that floor. And it's, Imam Ali alayhi salam, in one battle, an arrow got lodged in his heel. And they tried to take it out, but it was too painful. He said, leave it. Wait until I'm in sajda. Take the arrow out when I'm in sajda, when I'm deep in my... And that's what they did. Now, that's legendary. But, what's the point of these legends if we're not really drinking from that cup? I was able to taste, by Allah's grace, what that sajda was. And the fruits and treasures are there for us. We do have to make that effort. I believe, despite the plethora of fitnas, the worst of the fitnas, the worst is what we find within the infighting of the Muslims. But I totally, strongly believe that all of this fitna does not have real substance. It just has glitter and attractiveness. And the fitna mongers may produce one or two ayahs and twist them, but really it's not substantial. We have been given prescriptions. We have been given this book. Allah has preserved the book. If it was left to us, we would have destroyed that book. But Allah has said, I will preserve this book, and He has preserved this book. And if we hold on to this book, and if we, it's not just putting it on nice covers on a mantel shelf, but if we really dive into it and take it as a salvation and as a guide, and are serious, we will be protected. It's the book, and it is also there are a number of different versions, but the one I believe is, His Prophet said, I leave you my book and I leave my Ahlul Bayt. And the two will never part till Kawthar. So, what is Ahlul Bayt? Ahlul Bayt is the family, and in my opinion, it's the family and the true companions of the Prophet. I mean, it is famously known that the Prophet ﷺ declared Salman Farsi as his Ahlul Bayt. So it's not just his direct family descendants, but it's those who were close, really close lovers and companions of the Prophet too. And these lines have continued, and we find such people today. We find people like Sheikh Muslim, Sheikh Fadlallah. We can hold on to such people. We can drink from their cup. So if we hold on to these people and we hold on to the Quran, Inshallah, if we have the faith and you have the yearning, your hearts will sing, inshallah. Bismillah. May Allah protect us from fitna. May Allah give us himmah to hold on to what we have tasted, to hold on to what we know in our core. May Allah give us the tawfiq to discover and learn and realize who we truly are, which is Ruh, divine, from Allah, by Allah, to Allah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalam. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.